morning. Thank you for having me here today. I'm actually thrilled to be here and talk about the Department of Interior. Perhaps only just a year ago, Department of Interior wouldn't have been invited to an event like this, and there's a reason for that. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Tom. This is a terrific event, one of which we support and are trying to work very much towards filling pipelines for both domestic and foreign use. The other folks here from Interior, Chris is here over at that table, and Jason is here as well. One of the takeaways from today is what I try and mention every time that I'm out messaging is please stop by and visit. No issue is too small for us to personally address from the Secretary's office. And that's basically how we have been transforming the Department of Interior. This administration, this president, this secretary has a strong focus on the energy resources portfolio at the Department of Interior, which is quite remarkable because not only is that transformative, but it's relatively new. It's not that the energy resources haven't been there and have not been part of the Department of Interior's portfolio. It's the fact that the mission of the strategy towards energy dominance based on our energy resources is now a top-tier priority at Interior. That's not to say that our other top mission of conservation takes second fiddle to that. Secretary Zinke and other folks at Interior have no better friend, are the best friends of environmentalists and conservationists and all outdoors sportsmen advocates. So we have a fairly focused mission, which also includes some structural changes. So I think this morning, I'll briefly, this is all going to be more or less overview, but I'll get into how we are prioritizing ourselves on a daily basis and really pursuing President Trump's energy dominance strategy. And as I alluded to, that is based on our vast energy portfolio. Not only are 9 of our 10 bureaus supporting energy development, it's also been referenced in certain outlets that we manage more energy resources than any entity on the globe. And that is something that we should not lose focus on, because as part of that, and most folks don't know this, is that the Department of Interior is also the second largest generator of revenue for the federal government behind the IRS. So this focus on the energy portfolio and our energy dominance strategy is not purely production. It is also about generating revenue, from which we can derive many benefits. So in addition to gas, we oversee production on public land of a whole host of energy types. Really, we are completely all of the above. Oil, coal, hydroelectric, wind, solar, biomass, and geothermal. Our electric generation portfolio from hydro is the largest in the West. And what most folks don't realize either is that the Department of Interior is a very large generation company. And we are taking an approach towards that in a corporate sense, business management sense, in terms of how the hydro assets are generating electricity, selling into the market in some instances for profit, and also what can be done for non-generating infrastructure as well. So at Interior and the other departments, obviously, who are represented here today, the President has been laser-focused on achieving energy dominance. This is part of his America First energy agenda, the national security risk of energy dependence, in which our nation is reliant on foreign countries who may not always have our best interest at heart. They're great. And in President Trump's administration, there is a unique emphasis on the flag under which energy is produced, and rightfully so. The belief that a worldwide abundance of a resource should preempt individual nations from increasing their own market share and net exports is part of a worldview neither the President or Secretary Zinke shares. Our top priorities are to increase American energy production, enhance American wealth and security, and create American jobs. It is imperative for us to put America first in all that we do, including energy production. Again, no project is too small. We got directly involved in the Secretary's office for what was couched as a very small project in West Virginia. Well, it wasn't small for those people in West Virginia. This coal mining project put 50 people to work. 50 people. I heard people say big deal. That is a big deal because in those towns, these people need these jobs. They need to buy pencils. They need to buy sneakers. They need to have jobs around Christmas time. So 50 jobs in some of these small towns, is like 5,000 jobs in Manhattan. So we just don't focus on the big stuff. The small stuff is really something that we are focused on. So again, please let us know if you have business before the Department of Interior. But basically, that's our energy dominance strategy. America needs to tout its energy economy and not be ashamed of it. We can look at countries like China, you look at Iran, Russia, Canada, Mexico. They have always promoted their energy economy, and that's to the benefit of their respective countries. So instead of wearing ours as a badge of honor, we were always told to shy away from supporting American employment, American prosperity, our energy resources. And that effectively locked up our natural resources in an attempt to achieve vague, empty political goals. Clearly, that is not the policy of this administration. Now, to be clear, this does not mean that we're selling off our public lands. It's just the opposite. In fact, I'd like to mention again, throughout Secretary Zinke's career, he's been staunchly opposed to the sale or transfer of American public lands. And I've been friends with the Secretary for many years. That has always been his position, and that stand is not changing. We understand that our lands are national treasures. Frankly, they're the envy of the world. And while our department and this administration is open to responsible energy production on some land, it takes the form of a lease, where the land does in fact remain in federal management. The industry bids for these leases are now coming on stronger than they have before. And the big reason is because the regulatory scheme under President Trump is more reliable, and more importantly, probably, it's more reasonable. You see, an energy dominance strategy includes a whole lot of common sense. So at Interior, we're taking care to remove confusing, the unnecessary regulations, punitive regulations that were put in place under previous administrations. That is encouraging industry investment. The bureaucracy, which has tied up our industry partners in red tape, is being scaled back for the good of our economy, our workers, and our country as a whole. Recently, you may have noticed that we published our Energy Burdens Report. That report highlights the actions we have taken, plan to take, so that we can move our energy economy and our energy dominance strategy forward. A lot has been done since the president has taken office. So that report discusses many of the executive orders, many of the secretarial orders, that have set the menu, have set the table for a new course for the relationship between government and industry at Interior. That's important because at Interior, we want to be a better business partner. As part of that, and as part of the release of the energy report, the Secretary launched an executive committee for expedited permitting, which I'm going to chair, and our launch meeting is right after the Thanksgiving holiday. Within that group, we're going to address permitting challenges. We're going to be addressing a whole host of other issues, including energy corridors, of which have been part of our thinking for a few weeks now. But the reality is, this is the tangible effect of having a president who believes in free markets, a president who believes in government and really does believe in American greatness. Moreover, we've also recently kicked off the Royalty Policy Committee. And part of my job, which makes it such a great job, is to ensure that the public continues to receive the full value of energy produced on federal lands. What that really means is that these energy resources belong to the taxpayers. We know that. What that also really means is that we have to deliver a better return for the taxpayers. So the way I look at it is that this policy committee, with regards to revenue, is really no different than a corporate board that has to make decisions in a fiduciary responsibility for the betterment of their shareholders. In this case, our shareholders are the taxpayers. So all of this, especially at Interior, is a bold new approach to energy policy. So instead of creating more rules, more government, and more bureaucracy, we have this new path towards energy dominance, and part of going down that path is exercising something called discretion. So we're a very old department, but just because we have the ability to regulate an industry doesn't mean that we have to do so. With the ability to govern and regulate comes the responsibility of discretion. And that's something Secretary Zinke is very much focused on. It's not our job to micromanage an industry. It's not our job to micromanage a company. We have responsibility for safety, health, environmental stewardship, yes. But really, conceptually, we're hired to micromanage the Department of Interior. So with that, we want fairness and transparency with industry because we believe that will help us unleash the American energy economy. And we can do so, and I remind people of this, without sacrificing our bedrock principle of environmental stewardship. We are protecting our environment, but we are protecting our environment in a way that doesn't make it challenging for our investors to comply. So our regulatory environment is going to be consistent and reliable. That way, folks can be rest assured that we're not going to be moving the goalposts in the middle of the project. That has consistently been feedback I've gotten from the field, is that when we're trying to do something prior to this administration, there would always seem to be a changing dynamic to whatever project that was seeking Interior approval. And sometimes when I found on some of these field visits going out and talking to folks, a field biologist, whoever, it's not that they love, a great crawfish. It's that they hate coal. So we just have to get beyond that and be reliable business partners We can do so while maintaining the strict environmental standards because we have to do so, because we're the best in the world with regards to that. We have conducted more onshore oil and gas lease sales in the first 6 months of 2017 than all of 2016 combined. And early next year, we're planning to offer the most acres in an oil and gas lease sale in the history of the United States. So by the end of the president's first term, we're going to be one of the largest LNG exporters in the world. In the world. That shows what can be done when you combine our innovative industry with a supportive administration that makes responsible decisions. This administration believes it is better for gas to be developed here under reasonable, not punitive environmental regulation than overseas, where it will be developed in many cases, many cases, under hardly or no regulation at all. Our energy policies are about striking a balance. It's important to note as well that revenues from oil and gas leases, as well as other production on federal lands, most certainly helps fund parks and other conservation initiatives. Each of those initiatives is something we can get behind. We're all environmentalists, we're all conservationists. No one group holds those labels. And so we can get behind those initiatives very strongly, and we focus on them. This government is no longer in the business of picking winners and losers. We're letting the market decide, and we're relying on the American industriousness and innovation to guide us to the era of energy dominance. With American energy exports strong, oil and gas revenues increasing, and job numbers on the upward track, President Trump is off to a transformational start. As American industry builds up the U.S. market share in global oil and gas, our country is becoming safer, citizens wealthier, and our commitment to environmental stewardship much better financed. This is exactly what change looks like. Thank you for having me today, and congratulations on a successful launch.